Republican Congressman Carlos Curbelo of Florida, and singer-songwriter Carole King, who's performing tomorrow night at the Capitol Fourth, the traditional event held on the lawn of the U.S. Capitol. Carole, thank you for joining us. Explain the difference. I know you're eager to do that between your professional performance as an entertainer at the steps of the Capitol and the show that's going to go on down at the other end of the mall.
Right. Well, the show that I am performing in is a diverse, as Congressman Jeffries said, mosaic of people from around the country. And this is the traditional 39th annual event at the lawn outside the Capitol, which celebrates our birthday, the birthday of America. In contrast, you have a separate event, and that's the point that
But you're the warm-up, unfortunately.
No, well,
isn't yours around 6 and his is later in the evening?
I don't think of us as the warm-up.
I'm teasing.
We are the main event, and he's following.
Well, the weather report right now looks very good for the early part of the evening, so let's see how it works out. But what do you think about the fact that he is sort of piggybacking his political show on top of this national thing that you're proud to be part of tomorrow night at the Capitol?
His spectacle with tanks and the air show and everything is feeding the ego of someone who is arguably the most insecure person on the planet.
You think it's ego?
Totally. And he's insecure that he needs this.
Well, White House officials are reportedly anxious about the president's extravagance. According to Politico, White House officials and allies are wringing their hands over the risk of the hastily arranged event morphing into Trump's inauguration 2.0, in which the size of the crowd and the ensuing media coverage do not meet the president's own outsized expectations. Well, here we go again. One aide said there are questions about the ticket distribution and who will show up. The weather might be bad. Heads are spinning. Meanwhile, the Washington Post reports that according to one defense official, the Pentagon was not planning for tanks to be involved in the July 4th event until late last week. But after the president requested them, they were shipped up by rail from Fort Stewart in Georgia. Congressman, thank you so much. Curbelo, thank you for joining. This is a weird thing because it seems like a helter-skelter attempt to scare up some ego juice for the president rather than any kind of long-term planning. I don't know what's going to happen. My fear is a lot of people are going to show up who are pro-Trump. They're going to have their Confederate flags flying and their license plates and all kinds of troublemaking. There'll be a lot of other people who are going to meet like in a storm, and you're going to have a real conflict out there. Your thoughts?
Chris, a lot of people in the government are anxious and disappointed. Why, Chris? Because George Washington gave a great example of what this country is and showed why our founding fathers built an exceptional nation. In the Capitol Rotunda, there is a painting that captures the moment when Washington turns over his military commission after being elected president to make it clear that in this country, the people are in charge and not the military, and that in this country, we celebrate the freedom of the people, of every citizen, not the power of the government, as people do in other countries throughout the world. I think of Cuba, the country my parents fled.
Sure.
You see military parades there constantly because the government wants to be at the center of society. Our founding fathers didn't want the government to be at the center of society, and certainly not the president of the United States. So a lot of people all over the country, but even in the president's White House and even among congressional Republicans, there's a lot of consternation about this because it is a very clean break with an important 243-year tradition that we're going to see tomorrow, and it's not a positive break.
Well, why do you think that is, that people that are sort of dictator-ish, like the Castro brothers, why they would, instead of giving people political freedom, which they never gave them, even having promised it when I was growing up, everybody thought Castro was going to be a Democrat, a liberal Democrat, because he promised to be one. He swore he was not a communist dictator. He swore it. We all heard it. He'd go on Meet the Press and Ed Sullivan. I think he did all these shows, and he didn't do any of that. He lied to everybody. But your thoughts here, I think it was wonderful what you said about George Washington, because when George III, he asked someone, what's Washington going to do after the war? And he was told Washington's going back to Virginia to his farm, his plantation. And George III, you know what he said? Then he'll be the greatest man in the world. Because everybody respects giving up power like that to a democracy. Yeah.
George Washington had the option of being king. And he said, no, that is not what this new experiment
think Trump
in
would do if he
democracy
had
is
the
going
option?
to be.
What
Oh,
do you
he'd
think Trump
take it
would
in a
do?
second. He would take it in a second. And that's what part of this event tomorrow is. He wants to be at the center, not just of the government, but of American life. And that's just the complete opposite of what our founding fathers designed and of what I think most Americans want.
Well, I hope that everybody goes there, Carol, especially our political moderates and progressives. If they see somebody looking for trouble, they just walk away.
Yeah.
Because the last thing we need is another Charlottesville. The last thing we need is this battle of ideology in the streets.
Absolutely. You know,
That's right.
I wanted to make a comment about the fact that this is a day that we at Capitol Fourth are honoring the troops and honoring the birthday of our country. This guy is taking troops away from their family.
Yeah. Well, let's see what tracks the tanks leave. There's 60 tons, these vehicles. They're not meant for promotions, PR displays. They're meant for defending the country. Thank you, former Congressman Carlos Cabral. Thank you, as always, sir, for your country.
Thank you, Chris.
And for coming here tonight. And thank you, Carol King, for the country again.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.